Hello students, good morning to everyone. So we are discussing the nucleic acids. In the previous video, we discussed what are DNA, what are RNA, and how many types of RNA and the structure of DNA, okay, and the importance of DNA and RNA, everything we discuss. In this session, let us we compare the differences between the DNA and then RNA, and the most important application of this DNA, nucleic acids, that is what invention of DNA fingerprinting. So what are the applications of this DNA fingerprinting and the procedure of DNA fingerprinting, and thereafter the last concept of this chapter, that is what hormones. These are the topics we are going to cover in this video. Now let us compare the differences between the DNA and RNA. As we know, DNA, it's mainly present in nucleus of cell, nucleus, okay, and also mitochondria and cytoplasm. No, not cytoplasm, chloroplast. So these are the three main places where the DNA can exist. It is mainly present in nucleus of the cell, mitochondria of the cell, and at the same time chloroplast. Whereas RNA present in mainly present in nucleolus. Nucleolus present within the nucleus. Okay, nucleolus, cytoplasm. Okay, and then ribosomes. So in these three main sources, the RNA can exist. In DNA and RNA, what is the main difference between DNA and RNA? It's abbreviation. DNA, deoxyribose nucleic acid. RNA stands for ribonucleic acid. So they both are differed by the sugar present in it. What is the sugar present in DNA? That is deoxyribose sugar present in DNA. Deoxyribose sugar means there was no oxygen in this ribose sugar. At particular position, at second position, there was no oxygen. That is why we are calling this as deoxyribose sugar. Whereas RNA having ribose sugar. Ribose sugar is present in the RNA. Whereas DNA is a double-stranded. It's a double-stranded helical structure. See, this is one helic, this is another helic. So total two strands helically exist in DNA. Whereas RNA is a single strand. It's only a single strand. Like this. It's a double-stranded helical structure. It's a single-stranded helical structure. Next one, in DNA, the base is present. That is A, adenine, binding with the thymine, and guanine binding with the cytosine. AT-GC. Between AT double bond, 2 H bonds are present. Whereas in between GC, 3 H bonds are present. AT-GC. Whereas in RNA, A binds with the uracil, G binds with the cytosine. AU-GC pairs are present in RNA, AT-GC pairs are present in DNA. The main difference here, in DNA, thymine will be present, whereas in RNA, uracil will be present in the place of thymine. Okay, next one. DNA, generally, it is a stable and cannot hydrolyze by using alkalis. We cannot easily hydrolyze this DNA. It's a highly stable nucleic acid, cannot hydrolyze. Whereas RNA can hydrolyze by using alkalis. Next one, DNA is can replicate it can replicate. So one strand of DNA, one strand of this DNA will replicates another strand. So the process we call it as what? Replication. So DNA can replicate, whereas RNA cannot replicate. It is producing from the DNA. Okay, so it cannot be replicate on itself. So these are the main differences between DNA and RNA. I hope you understood about the DNA and RNA and the differences between the DNA and RNA. Now let us move on to the most advanced and useful technique of this DNA, that is what? DNA fingerprinting. You know that in forensic labs, to determine to identify the criminals which are involved in the murder. Okay, and also suppose if a new offspring, suppose if a newborn baby, okay, if there was a dilemma in their parents to whom this baby was born. So simply by doing this fingerprinting, DNA fingerprinting, we can identify the parents of that particular offspring. Okay, so that is what paternity of the individuals or paternity of the humans. That's the second advanced application. And the third one, suppose if a new dead body was found, a new unknown dead body was found, okay, and there was a doubt, maybe the dead body belongs to a particular family or that particular second family. Okay, so what they do, they just collect the blood samples of the two families and compare those blood sample DNA samples with this dead body sample, to which family that DNA will match, to that family that dead body will belongs. Okay, so even that also is one more advantage of this DNA fingerprinting. And also suppose if any new character from one generation to another generation, new characters will generate. What are the codes which are responsible for this revolution or evolutionary characters? Even that also we can find out by doing this DNA fingerprinting. So the most important 4 advantages or applications of this DNA fingerprinting is, first one is what? We can identify the criminals involved in cases. Okay, criminals in forensic labs. So first of all, identify criminals, identifying the criminals in a forensic labs. Next one, we can determine parental. Okay, parental evolution. Next one, we can found the dead bodies. Next one, we evolutionary characters. So these are the 4 main applications of this DNA fingerprinting. Okay, let us discuss what is this DNA fingerprinting and what is the procedure of doing this DNA fingerprinting. First of all, this DNA fingerprinting, this procedure also we call it as what? DNA typing. What's the other name of this procedure? DNA typing or DNA profiling. These are the other names of this DNA fingerprinting. DNA typing, also called what? DNA profiling, also called DNA printing, simply. DNA printing. And this method, first time, this DNA fingerprinting procedure, this procedure was first time invented by, it was invented by Sir Alec Jeffrey in 1984. In the year 1984, the scientist Sir Alec Jeffrey first time invented this new technology. Nowadays, naturally, if you see any fingertips, okay, every human being, everyone having unique fingertips at the tip of the fingers, okay, fingerprints, okay, everyone having unique fingerprints at the tip of the fingers. Okay, and no two persons having the same fingerprints. Okay, but nowadays, by doing some surgeries, we can alter the fingerprints also. So by using these fingerprints, okay, we cannot determine whether that person is involved in a particular case or not. Why? Because nowadays so many surgeries came forward to do the alterations of this even fingerprints also. So by following these fingerprints, we cannot conclude. So to identify that, the new technology, that is what DNA fingerprinting, also called DNA typing, was introduced. And this is also we call as DNA printing. And based upon this is the on what basis this DNA printing will works. DNA fingerprinting is based on the basis which was involved in the DNA. Okay, nitrogenous bases or the sequence of bases involved in the DNA. Why? Because every individual having their unique sequence of bases. Suppose when you match the DNA of mine with someone, okay, there was no similar DNA sequence. I have my unique sequence of bases and that person having unique DNA sequence. So no two persons are having the same sequence of nitrogen bases. Okay, by using that we are going to differentiate, okay, in this DNA fingerprinting procedure. Okay, so DNA printing is based on the sequence of nitrogenous bases present in DNA. Okay, no two persons having same sequence. Okay, even the twins also having different sequence of nitrogenous bases. Okay, no two persons are having the same sequence of nitrogenous bases. By using this principle, we are going to identify, we are going to work this DNA fingerprinting. So if we see the procedure of this procedure, here I am just explaining this procedure in a diagrammatically, so that you can easily understand it. It's a big process. Actually, in an advanced pattern, you can understand. There are so many terms will come, then only you can easily understand. But I hope I did this in a simplest way so that you can easily understand the topic. First of all, if you see the procedure of this, let you collect the DNA from the evidences. Okay, first of all, the people will collect the evidences at the place. What are the evidences? It may be blood sample, or it may be hair, or it may be fingerprints, whatever it may. Okay, so they will collect the evidences from. Okay, so from that evidence, what they do? They first of all they identify the DNA of that, chromosomal DNA. Chromosomal DNA from evidence. So it may be blood or hair, etc. or skin, whatever it may be, any cell. So chromosomal DNA they collect by doing some chromatography. They first of all, by using recombinant DNA, rDNA technology and biotechnology instruments, they will decode the DNA sequence. Then they will add some enzymes to here. Okay, so that is what we call what is the role of that enzymes? That enzymes, especially endonucleases, will go on to break at a particular point. Okay, that phenomena, that process of breaking the chromosomal DNA into DNA fragments, we call it as what we call fragmentation. So next what we are doing? We are doing fragmentation. So what is fragmentation? Breaking the chromosomal DNA into different lengths of fragments by using enzymes. What is the enzyme I am using? Endonucleases. Endonucleases. So by using this enzyme, I made DNA fragments. DNA fragments of different lengths. These all fragments are not having the same length. Okay, it may be longer and some fragment may be shorter. So different lengths of DNA fragments we got it. Then what we are doing? In the next step we are doing gel electrophoresis. Gel electrophoresis. So what is the role of this gel electrophoresis? It separates the fragments into different into groups based upon their lengths. Okay, all shorter fragments are at one place, all longer fragments are at another place. Likewise, based upon the lengths of the fragment, it will be segregated. So here we are getting DNA fragments of same length. Clear? Up to here clear? Next one, we are doing the sudden blotting. This technique we call it as what? Blotting. What is blotting? When you send this gel fragments or gel DNA fragments into the nylon sheet, if you spread this gel into the surface in the sheet of nylon, then that phenomenon we call it as what? Blotting. Okay, so transfer to nylon sheet, and that phenomenon, that principle, that the process of transferring that DNA fragments into the nylon sheet, that spreading we call it as what? Blotting, or simply called sudden blotting. After it was transferred to the nylon sheet, then what they do? So they will add DNA probes. DNA probes. Here the new term, probe. What is a probe? Probe is nothing but it's an artificial code, genetical code. Okay, artificial genetical code. So this, when we add this DNA probes to this gel DNA fragments, these probes will go and attach at a particular place. Wherever the sequence of this probe is present, to that place it will go and attach. Okay, then do the after that autoradiography. By doing this autoradiography, suppose you just imagine this is the fragments. When you add this DNA probes, the DNA probe will come and attach here. Understood? Now when you do the autoradiography, the place where the probes have been attached, at that place we will get dark lines. The place where the probes have been attached, at that place we are getting dark lines in X-ray films. So autoradiography is used to detect the places where the probes have been attached. Suppose if these probes are not attached anywhere, that means there was no similar sequence in that, so that person is not belongs to that crime. Okay, autoradiography followed by the X-ray film, X-ray printing. Okay, by finding these dark lines in that, we can identify the person which is involved in this or not. So this is the actual procedure of DNA fingerprinting. So once again, first of all, collect the chromosomal DNA from the evidences like blood, hair, etc. Then do the fragmentation by using the enzymes like endonucleases, so that we are getting the DNA fragments of different lengths. Then do the gel electrophoresis, so that we are segregating all the DNA fragments into a particular length. Thereafter, do the blotting. that means spreading this same length DNA fragments into the surface of nylon sheet, that is called what? Blotting. Then add the DNA probes, artificial genetical codes. Okay, then do the orthoradiography. It helps to identify the places where the probes have been attached or not. Okay, then do the X-ray printing so that we can get clear black lines which indicates what? The attachment of the probes on the DNA fragments. Okay, so this is actual procedure of DNA fingerprinting. So already we discussed the applications. This is useful to identify the criminals involved in the crime, especially in forensic labs. Next one, it is used to determine what? Parents. Next one, it is used to found the dead bodies by collecting the samples from their parents or from their kids, whatever it may be, to found the dead bodies related to that particular family or not. Next one, to identify what? Evolutionary characters related to that particular character. Okay, so these are the main applications. Okay, I hope you understood this DNA fingerprinting concept. Next one, biological importance of nucleic acids. That means, in addition to the playing like a DNA and RNA, okay, in addition to play the role of nucleic acid, it also plays some other important roles. What are those? The first one, these nucleic acids also acts as what? Energy carriers. Okay, energy carriers. That is example ATP, ADP, etc. Okay, so in addition to be act as a nucleic acid, they also act as what? Energy carriers. Next one, and also they act as what? Enzyme cofactors. Enzyme cofactors. That is what? NAD plus FAD, etc. Okay. Next one, it also act as what? Chemical messengers. These nucleic acids also act as what? Chemical messengers to transfer the message from one place to another place in our body. These nucleic acids also will play this role. So these are three other important roles. Along with acts as a nucleic acid, these nucleic acids also performs this following three roles. One is they act as energy carriers, and they can act as what? Enzyme cofactors, and next one they also act as what? Chemical messengers. Okay, next we will discuss the concept of hormones. Hormones. What are hormones? And from where these hormones will generate in our body? Okay, and what are the organs which are responsible for this production of these hormones? And how many types of hormones are present? And in that, what is the important hormone that we need to discuss? Let us all we discuss in this concept of hormones. Hormones, simply how you define the hormones? Hormones are nothing but these are intercellular messengers. Intercellular messenger from one cell to another cell in our body. If one cell transfer the message from one cell to another cell, these hormones will act. Okay, and they secreted by hormones secreted by the special gland, that is what? Endocrine glands. Endocrine glands. Hormones are secreted by which glands? Endocrine glands, and releases directly into blood. Now this blood will transport to the place where it needs. Okay, blood, and it will transport to the site of action. Okay, so this hormones secreted by which glands? Endocrine glands, and they releases into the blood, directly into the blood, and this blood will transport to the place where the action of hormones required. And these hormones, they play an important role, okay, in our body. Okay, they play a very important, vital role in our body. That is what? Metabolism. Okay, like carbohydrate metabolism, proteinaceous metabolism. Okay, to control our body metabolism. Okay, they play an important role in our body. That is what? Metabolism. Let us see the classification of hormones. Hormones, see, hormones, we are mainly classifying into two types based upon their nature. That is what? One is steroidal hormones. Steroidal hormones. Next one, non-steroidal hormones. Why? Because hormones can be a steroid in nature or proteinaceous nature. Okay, so steroidal nature and a proteinaceous nature. So based upon their nature, hormones we primarily classifying into two types: steroidal hormones and non-steroidal hormones. Steroidal hormones, these hormones are what? Steroid in nature. They are made up with steroids. And these steroidal hormones, again we differentiating into two types based upon their gender. That is what? Male sex hormones. In this sex hormones, under the steroidal hormones, first one is what? Sex hormones. And the second one is corticosteroidal hormones. Sex hormones and corticosteroidal hormones. Sex hormones, again based upon the gender, two types. That is what? Male sex hormones, female sex hormones. The male sex hormones we call it as what? Androgens. Androgens. Under this male sex hormones we mainly discuss what? Testosterone. This is a hormone which is responsible for the growing hair, beard, okay, getting male voice, okay, so many of hair on the body. Okay, these all are responsible for this testosterone. Okay, secreted by testis. Okay, so male sex hormones also we called as what? Androgens. Testosterone is a best example for this, and it was secreted by what? Testis. Next, female sex hormones. There was two female sex hormones. One is estrogen. This estrogen hormone is responsible for the secondary female characters. Secondary female characters means what? Getting female voice, okay, menstrual cycle, okay, so and they all body developments, okay, this is all what? Female sexual characters. So it was secreted by what? It was because of estrogen, and it was secreted by what? Ovaries. Estrogen is secreted by ovaries. Next one, pregnancy hormone. Okay, this is also next one, estrogen. Progesterone. The other name of progesterone is what? Pregnancy hormone. Getting pregnancy by the women because of this hormone. That is what? Progesterone. Some few women's lack of progesterone causing what? No pregnancy for them. Okay, so progesterone. So these are the two main female sex hormones. One is estrogen, responsible for the secondary female characters. Next one, progesterone, responsible for the pregnancy. So this is about what? Sexual hormones comes under steroid. Next one, corticosteroidal hormones. These are also steroidal hormones, and these corticosteroidal hormones we further classifying into differentiating into two types: mineralocorticoids and glucocorticoids. Mineralocorticoids and glucocorticoids. And these corticosteroid hormones are secreted by adrenal gland. Which gland? Adrenal gland. So especially mineralocorticoids are produced or synthesized within the cells of adrenal cortex. So they secreted in what? Adrenal cortex. Cells present in the adrenal cortex. Next one, what is the main responsibility of mineralocorticoids? In the name itself, mineralocorticoids. It maintains water salt balance in our blood. What percentage of water should be? What percentage of salt should be in our blood? That metabolism is maintained by what? Mineralocorticoids. Okay, so suppose if there was a lack of these mineralocorticoids because of any disease, if mineralocorticoids are less, then the person will get the disease Addison's disease. Which disease? Addison's. Lack of mineralocorticoids will get Addison's disease. Addison's disease. Okay, not Adidas. Adidas shoes. That's different. Just remember this Adidas shoes. Okay, Addison's disease. Once again, mineralocorticoid. The main role of these mineralocorticoids is they maintains water salt balance in our blood. Okay. Next one, glucocorticoids. In the name itself, gluco. That means these glucocorticoids maintain what? Carbohydrate metabolism. It maintains what? Carbohydrate metabolism, and it's made up in adrenal gland. It's made up in both are adrenal gland only. Especially it's an adrenal cortex. This is what? Adrenal medulla. Next one, it maintains what? Carbohydrate metabolism, and also if there was any inflammatory responses, it is the responsible for that. Okay, so this is about corticosteroid. Next, move to the non-steroidal hormones. Non-steroidal hormones. These non-steroidal hormones, under these non-steroidal hormones, we will discuss peptide hormones and amino acid hormones. Peptide hormones and amino acid hormones. Peptide hormones. So these are what? Peptide nature. Okay, proteinaceous nature. Polypeptides are nothing but proteins, na? These amino acids are what? Proteinaceous nature. And under this peptide hormones, we mainly discuss the most important peptide hormone or proteinaceous hormone. That's very, very important. Is what? Insulin. Diabetic patients, well known this. Insulin. Okay, what is the role of this insulin? What is the role of glucagon? And how this glucagon and insulin will maintain the glucose levels in their body, we will discuss. And the structure of insulin also we will discuss. Next one, amino acid hormones. Under this, these are amino acid nature. They are made up with they are amino acids. And examples for these amino acids are epinephrine and norepinephrine, etc. These are the main two examples for the amino acid derivatives of hormones. So in that the main thing, insulin. Let us discuss about the insulin. As we know that insulin is what? Peptide hormones and proteinaceous hormone. Okay, what is the role of this insulin? I told you already. Insulin always decreases the glucose levels in our blood. It always tries to decrease the glucose levels in the blood. Okay, diabetic patients generally, even if they have the normal meal, okay, the glucose levels in their blood is very high, not more than the normal. So immediately they will take insulin injection. Okay, this insulin will reduce the glucose levels in the blood. Otherwise, the glucose levels in their blood will be more. Okay, it causes some other side effects. Okay, let us see. So, what is the role of insulin? Insulin always it decreases glucose levels in blood. Okay, so that is why the insulin we call it as what? Hypoglycemic factor. Hypo means less, glycemic lesser glucose. Hypoglycemic factor, that's the other name of insulin. Okay, insulin also called hypoglycemic factor because it always reduces the glucose levels in the blood. Whereas the opposite of insulin, okay, that is what? Glucagon. Glucagon. What is the role of this hormone? Glucagon always increases glucose levels in the blood. For few people, the glucose levels are very less. Immediately they become what? Giddiness. They immediately fell down in the. So immediately they introduce the glucagon into their blood. It immediately increases the glucose levels in the blood. Okay. So glucagon always tries to increase the glucose levels in the blood, whereas insulin always decreases the glucose levels in the blood. So by the combination of these two, both insulin and the glucagon, they both maintains glucose levels in our blood. Suppose if suddenly glucose levels are less, immediately glucagon will enter into the blood and will increase the glucose levels. Suppose if suddenly glucose levels are very high, then immediately insulin will be secreted by the glands, will enter into the blood and it will decrease the glucose levels. So diabetic patients, okay, because of damage of that particular gland, the insulin or glucagon will not properly secreted into their blood. Because of that, okay, they are getting this disadvantage. Okay. Next, move on to the structure of this insulin. Insulin, I told you, it is a peptide hormone. Okay, it's made up of, insulin is made up of 2 polypeptide chains. Insulin is made up of how many of polypeptide chains? 2 polypeptide chains. Okay, so one is a major polypeptide chain, another one is minor polypeptide chain. 2 polypeptide chains. Major polypeptide chain having 30 amino acids. In the major polypeptide chain, how many amino acids are there? 30 amino acids. Whereas a minor polypeptide chain having 21 amino acids. Total, tell me how many of amino acids overall? Total 51 amino acids are there in insulin. Okay, all 51 are linked by the peptide bonds. So overall we call it as peptide bond, peptide polypeptide. That is why it's a peptide hormone. Clear? Total 2 polypeptide chains. One is major, another one is minor. Major having 30 amino acids, minor having 21 amino acids. And one more thing, in insulin there was a 3 SS linkages are there. Total how many? 3 SS linkages. Total 3 SS linkages are there. What is the exact position of the SS linkage? And as we know that SS linkage can be present only when there was a cysteine amino acids are there. Between cysteine, this is cysteine, this is another cysteine, then only between these 2 amino acids SS linkages are present. That means total 3 SS linkages are present, means there was a 3 cysteine linkages are present. Okay, and those, what is the location of these 3 SS linkages? Out of these 3 SS linkages, 2 are hetero SS linkage, heteropeptide SS linkage, and 1 is homo. 2 are hetero, 1 is homo. Let us see how. So here I am taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 21 amino acids. That means it is a minor polypeptide chain. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 30 amino acids. It's a major polypeptide chain. So 3 SS linkages are present. I told you already. Out of 3, 1 is homo, 2 are hetero. Hetero linkages are present always between 7th amino acids. 7th. So 7th means this is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is the 7th one. And here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These two are 16. Between this, see this is 7th and this is 7th. Between these two, SS linkage is present. And this is one SS linkage, that is what between the two polypeptide, that is a hetero. Next, one more SS linkage between the 19th amino acids of both. Here 19th means, so this is total 21, this is the 19th one. Okay, here this is the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. This is the 19th one. Between these two, one more SS linkage. Okay, this is 19th and this is also 19th. It is also hetero. So, 2 hetero SS linkages between 7th amino acids and 19th amino acids of 2 peptide linkages. Next one is homo. Homo SS linkage is present in minor polypeptide chain, not major, minor. In the minor between 6th and 11th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. Between these two, there was an intra-SS linkage. So, homo or hetero, this is what we call as inter and intra. Inter means between the two peptide links. Between the two peptide links, 2 are there. Intra, within the same peptide link. Within the same, between the 6th and 11th, okay, there was one intra-SS linkage. 2 inter, 1 intra. Inter linkages between the 7th and 19th amino acids, and the intra-SS linkage between the 6th and 11th of minor polypeptide chain. So this is about the insulin structure. I hope you understood this hormones and the classification of hormones. Among that, the most important hormone, that is what? Insulin and its structure. Okay, until then, take care. Bye bye.